Hi, everybody. Welcome in. Those of you who are on the waiting page, we have a fun little introductory question. If everyone wants to pop in the chat where you're tuning in from and what is your favorite Thanksgiving dish, that would be awesome. And I can answer because I have an answer immediately for this question, and it's stuffing. And I feel like that no one picks stuffing. But my mom has the best recipe with like sausage and apple and sage, and it's so good.
That sounds delicious. I think it would be very different if I had good stuffing. I
Yeah.
think that would be a game changer for me is like if I had really good stuffing, that may squeak it over. I think I'm
Yeah.
just a rolls kind of girl, like butter and rolls.
Yeah.
That's pretty good too.
My husband's with you, Maddie. Stuffing is his favorite.
Yeah. I feel like you can just customize it so well.
Maddie, do you what do you put in your stuffing? Because my family, we put a little bit of ground sausage.
That's what we do too. Yeah.
Okay.
And you like toast the breadcrumbs in the sausage fat. It's so good. It's so good.
That sounds amazing.
My favorite is we make this cranberry. It's not a sauce and it's not a salad. We basically grind up apples and pecans, and I use like an old school hand crank meat grinder to grind those up. And then we basically bind it with like Jello. And so it's kind of like a Jello salad almost, but it's like thicker consistency. It's very good.
Okay. I've never heard of that before.
Yeah.
Exciting. All right. I will let people kind of file in from the waiting room for just another minute here. But I'm seeing a lot of different answers. Let's see. Stuffing all the way. Nice. Love it. Roasted sweet potatoes. I've just become a sweet potato advocate. I used to like not like that a potato was sweet, but now I'm like a fan.
Have you tried any of the white sweet potatoes?
Mm-mm.
We have only been able to find them in Colorado, or at least we couldn't find them in Florida when we were down there the last couple of years. But now that I'm back, it's kind of a mix of regular potato and sweet potato. It's not quite as sweet, and that's now become my new favorite.
Okay, I could get behind that.
That sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
All right. All right, it's officially 1 p.m. Pacific, so we're going to get started with the webinar. Thank you guys all for attending today, and for those who are going to watch on demand, I hope you guys get a lot out of this session. This is the Game Changers webinar series, so we will hopefully have a ton more of these to do in the future, just kind of going over some lesser known keeper features that can really drastically change your day. Erica and Jody have helped Keeper customers get more out of the product for a really long time now. So we're super excited for them to share some of their secret tips and tricks. So without further ado, I will let these ladies introduce themselves and we'll get started.
Thanks, Maddie. So excited to be here with you all. These are our favorite features that a lot of people either don't know about or haven't seen them used in this way. So a little bit more creative and troubleshooty in nature, but this should be really fun. So I'll kind of start with an intro. So Jody and I each had our own businesses in the bookkeeping space. And about 2.5 years ago, we were introduced by a mutual friend, and we just lit up and kind of really clicked together. But both of us get really nerdy and really excited about workflows and how to make a system do what you want and troubleshooting it if it's not technically available, but is there a backdoor way to kind of go about something to get the same result? So that is all of what we do. So a lot of our time is spent testing out new features and answering questions and troubleshooting and playing around in our demo. So that being said, one thing that's really, really important for us is that nobody uses it the exact same, and there's no right way to do this. I think it's really easy to get pressured into feeling like you have to use all the features and use it in an ideal scenario and the way that somebody else is using it. But I think this is such a flexible platform that we get to play around and use the pieces that we need and save the other ones that we don't need quite yet until we're ready for them. So that's a huge part of what you'll see today, and also just through line of Hughes and Strong Consulting for sure.
Absolutely.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lauren Getchy, and I am a customer success manager here at Keeper. I am located in Denver, Colorado, and I have been with Keeper for 1.5 years. Previous to Keeper, though, I was an educator for 10 years. And so I always like to describe my role at Keeper as teaching, just instead of 3 and 4-year-olds, I'm teaching adults how to utilize our software and make the most of it. So it's lovely to see those of you that I've met with before, and it's lovely to meet those of you that I haven't had a chance to see yet. And I did call out my favorite feature, but as Jody and Erica will discuss, there's much more to Keeper, and yeah, can't wait to see their tips and tricks and talk you through those with them.
So today we are going to highlight these key features in Keeper that we like that go beyond the month, like the classic month-end reports. These are, some of them are underrated, we think. So we're bringing them to your attention, and hopefully they help inspire you. We're also going to show you how others are using these features and give you some creative examples as well. And then we can explore how to set up those features if you see any that you're like, hey, I really want to try that one out.
And one thing that's really important for us is to drop the shoulds and not should on ourselves. So we're going to share a ton today, but we don't want you coming away feeling like you're not doing enough in Keeper or feeling overwhelmed. So follow the spark if something clicks for you and you're like, oh my gosh, this is going to change everything. But be really careful about how much extra you add on your to-do list while we're going into year end. You can always come back and look at different features later on or kind of store them in your memory bank, but be really careful to use these as inspiration and not extra pressure.
Yeah. So here we go. Let's dive on in. The first one we're going to talk about today is customizing email templates. So we have all these wonderful templates built in to Keeper. We call them the default templates, but you can set up additional ones and you can customize those to better suit your firm. So how can customizing that help? It can help to reflect your brand and your personal tone when you update those default emails. So that could include your auto reminder emails, vendor requests, even your new client onboarding, any of them, update them to reflect your brand and your tone. But in addition to that, you can create your own custom emails. Some good examples would be if you're sending out 1099 notices or talking about service fees. Some creative ones would be like celebrating birthdays or sign-on anniversaries. You can even create custom signatures by creating a custom email for each one of your team members if you wanted that to go out as well. And where you'll find to do that is going into your template section and then clicking on the emails. And then right below that, you'll be able to customize those. If you ever want to add new ones, right down there at the very bottom, we'll give you a blank slate and give you that opportunity to create them. Just don't forget to save. It's very easy to make lots of changes, make it look exactly like you want to, click off of it and lose all of that. So be sure to hit that save button.
Yeah. And also want to note that you guys can customize the vendor emails that we have for the 1099s report for our US customers as well.
Yeah. So that'll be on this other little tab that's kind of hidden over here off to the side.
And then I think one of the really cool things about Keeper and a lot of other email softwares that we've all encountered is that you can personalize these. So if you want to drop in somebody's name or the number of unanswered questions they have or something like that, there's quite a bit built in here to Keeper in these what are called merge tags. And one of the things that's really cool is once you go into that email area to adjust it, you'll see one side has the kind of technical jargon and has what's in the parentheses and the actual text for Keeper to read. And the other side is going to give you a preview. So it's really helpful if you're not quite sure what one of these is going to pull in, pop over to that preview side, look over there and see if it's exactly what you want. But this can be a really cool way to personalize and bring somebody's name in so that it doesn't feel quite as automated of a message.
I also want to note that please use the merge tags that we have built out for you. If you come up with one on your own, essentially, it's not going to function properly. So you are essentially limited to the ones that are here. But as Erica mentioned, there's quite a few. By the way, if you don't see one that you want, let us know. We can create a feature request. For instance, a new merge tag we released recently was last name. So if you don't see something, let us know. And then the other thing to note is to ensure that you copy it exact as is, so there won't be any issues. Make sure you click that little paper icon under actions, and that automatically copies it to your clipboard. And then you can easily paste it into the body of the email.
And that way you don't have to worry about, did I get the dash in the right place or did I miss a letter somewhere? That's the easiest way, and Keeper makes it really easy to just copy that over, paste it in your email, and preview it on the other side to make sure everything's working properly.
And if you're looking for where to find these, we are going to pop into the demo at the end and answer questions. So definitely keep your questions coming. But when you are looking at your email templates, you'll look for this little thing that says it's blue plus add merge tags. Click on that and it will open up this window, drop down window here for you to be able to copy those. But again, we can show that from the demo at the end. We're going to keep on moving forward. The next one of our favorites, Erica and mine, is the unconnected clients. We did a whole thing on this in our monthly Q&A as well yesterday about all the different ways that you can utilize unconnected clients. This is a great way to keep all of your tasks in one space for all clients, even if you're not connecting their accounting software. So when might you use these? If you are onboarding, don't have access yet, or you're just not ready to connect them, maybe they're using an accounting software that does not integrate with Keeper yet, QB Desktop, Sage, any of the other accounting softwares. It's another great way to use those. And we have seen a lot of people use it for single service clients. Maybe you only do one thing for them, and you don't want to connect their whole account for it. So you can just have them still part of your client list and keep all of your clients together. And some other creative ways we've seen unconnected clients being used is for your own internal tasks, maybe for training new team members, or even testing out your own templates and setups before you roll it out to your additional clients.
Yeah, this one's a really flexible one, but I always hated that you had to essentially have, or it'd be really difficult if you had two separate systems. So we have one for bookkeeping, and then we have to create a whole nother system or use something else to keep track of just those payroll clients or just our CFO clients or something like that, or even our own admin like sales or marketing tasks. So you can use unconnected clients for these, which is really awesome because then everything can be in the same platform and we don't have to worry about missing something in a different platform or having to update in multiple places.
So how to add those
just like you would
any just like you would any other client. You come up to your plus add client button. Instead of connecting to QBO or connecting to Xero, click on that last tab for unconnected, and then you can select everything else like you normally would.
Now, one of the questions that usually comes up is like, okay, but what can you use and what can't you use on an unconnected client? The big picture bird's eye view is that anything that's going to pull over data from the accounting software will be disabled here. So we can still use client details and notes and properties. We can still use all of those non-closing sections and areas up at the very top. We can also use any of the custom sections that we add. So think pre-close or additional items, or if you add a quality control section down at the bottom or anything like that, those are still totally available. And then we actually have a working client portal for any of these as well if you need to use it. So the only thing that's not going to be accessible is that transaction questions, right? Because there's no transaction data to pull over, but we still can drop in non-transaction questions like our onboarding questions, or we can still add recurring questions if we want to set Keeper up to drop in this question every month for a statement we might need to gather. You still have those auto reminders for unanswered questions so you don't have to follow up. And then you still have areas like questions for us or resources inside that client portal. So big picture, you won't have transaction questions. You won't have these reports you see down on the right-hand side, like that transaction review or pay entity review, because those won't pull over. There's no vendor requests for W-9s, and there's no like management reports or metrics at this point either.
We're going to keep moving forward. Just so you guys know, we have 6 of these that we're highlighting today. So this is our third one, closed status notifications, and we are going to be opening up for Q&A at the end. So I know we might feel like we're moving fast, but we'll get to all of your questions. So closed status notifications, this is how you can automatically send or receive an email when a client's status changes. So this is really helpful if you need to be alerted when something is stuck or you need assistance. Maybe when a close is ready to be reviewed. Sometimes we'll use them for revisions before completing the close, so you can bounce it back and forth between team members that way. And another good example is if a client becomes unresponsive and it's like, hey, red flag, I need a manager to help intervene here. And then, of course, when the close is complete, those are a lot of the popular ones that people will set up notifications for. When that notification comes through.
Yeah, go ahead, Jody, you got it.
They come through as an email. So in your inbox, you'll see the client name and that it's what the status has been changed to. And then this is what the body of that will look like. Click the button, and it's going to take you directly to that close.
And this can be really helpful because we don't always have Keeper open, or we may not be open on that exact page to catch it. So this can provide a little bit of a buffer for management or something like that who may not be in Keeper all the time, or just to add additional visibility when it's ready for that manager review or it needs to go back, because sometimes our due dates may be a little bit limiting. It's not quite due yet, but it's ready to be reviewed. So if that next person in line has time, they can get to it because they got this notification. So we can go in and set these up under that settings wheel up in the very top right corner. So we're going to go to practice and settings, practice and statements, and then we're going to go to close status options at the very bottom of that page. And then we can set up any statuses that we want on the right-hand side. And then you've got another column for notifications. So this is really cool, and you can set up exactly what you want. So if it's stuck, you can figure out, do I want a role? So do I want whoever's assigned in that manager position for this individual client? And Keeper can help fill in the gaps and say, oh, the manager for this one is Joe, and send that over. We can also specify a specific person. So if I want me as an owner to always know about those things and it's always just going to be me, I can set myself or an individual user, or I can use a combination of both. So in that ready to publish on the right-hand side, you can see that we have it set up for a role and a person as an example. So lots of flexibility here to get Keeper to give you that nudge however you need that to be passed along within your team without additional tasks or Slack messages or anything like that on your end.
I just wanted to call out, a couple people are trying to find this as we're going through it. Your practice settings is that gear icon in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. So once you click on that, you will want to go to the tab on the left that says practice and statements, which should be the default first tab. And then at the bottom of that is where you'll see the close status options. Sorry, yes, you have to go to the third tab, tasks. Sorry, that is another call out. There's one more step in there.
Oh, yeah, good call out there. So practice and settings is going to be on your left-hand side. You've got tabs across the top that you'll go to tasks, and then all the way down at the very bottom of that page is where you'll find that close status options. Now, this is a really cool one to add a little bit of additional context here. So Keeper's going to send you that notification email when that status is updated. But sometimes it can be really helpful to pair that with a saved view. So we can go into our client list and filter the statuses by whatever we want it to. So if I know I'm going to have to hop in for anything that's stuck or ready for review, I can use that little filter icon on that column, filter it down for just those two, hit OK, and then you're going to see a save view button come up on the right hand side. So this can make it to where when I get that email that something needs attention, I can go directly to this view and kind of clear the list in a way, which is really, really satisfying. But it also makes it to where you're not having to hunt around and go, okay, which one did I get an email about, and go back and forth between your email. So setting this up in combination can be really helpful to make it really easy to hop into anything you may need to address.
Next up, we have our daily task list. This is where you can stay on top of due dates and especially help subcontractors find out what work they need to do at that particular time. So it's a good way to see everything at once. With that, what do you see? You're going to see all tasks across all clients for all close periods. So it can be very overwhelming and it can hold a lot of information. But we can filter this extensive list to focus on just what we need for that moment. So a really popular one for subcontractors would be what's due today, or maybe what's due this week, those kind of things, to filter it down to just what they need to work on for that day. What can you filter? Almost anything here. So there's date ranges. There's quick ones to do that for due today, overdue this week. If you are a manager or admin user, you also have a quick way to click on Assign to Me to be able to filter it just to your own tasks. And of course, we've got our high priority. All of those are quick filters that are available. And then other filters, you can do the close period, section, tags, status, task name, so many possibilities. And with that, you can also stack those. So you could filter by a close period and a status, or a tag, or any combination of those that you want, to really be able to take that big list and zero in on just what you need in that moment, then save that view to use as frequently as you need to.
Just calling out one other tip here. This is also where you can bulk update the status of tasks as well, if you find it easier to just come in here and update all of your tasks to done. And this is the one place in Keeper where you can bulk delete tasks as well. If maybe there's a report you're not using across multiple clients, like Jody said, you could filter by that task name and delete that in bulk for multiple clients.
Yeah. As somebody who's working in the background a lot in Keeper, that is one of my favorite things about the task list, is being able to do those bulk actions. When you're on that task list view, these are the things you're going to see. So those managers and admin users, you'll see that quick filter button to just see what's assigned to you. Everybody will have the due date drop down to do a quick filter of your date range here. But anywhere that you see this filter button, you can filter as desired there. And then, of course, click that save view so that you can go back to it whenever you need to.
And this can be really helpful whether you need to create a view that's just for you to help streamline this down, or if you want to create like high priority tasks across the entire team, you have the option on your sharing, whether that's private, just going to show up for you, or firm wide. So this can be really helpful if you're like, man, I need some views to get myself organized, but I don't want to clutter up my team. Totally cool. Just create them as private. And then here's a quick example of what you'll see. And we kind of stacked to create a due today view. So in this example, we filtered down that due today. So I'm not saying the rest of the week, I'm just focused in on what has a due date today and what am I going to get behind on if I don't tackle it today. And then I filtered down by the assignee. So in this case, I was logged in, so I just hit assign to me. But you could also do that filter icon on that assignee column and create like multiple views for Jody's due today and Lou's due today and Erica's due today. So lots of options here, but this is really helpful because, man, I'll tell you, one of the most overarchingly overwhelming screens is that task list. But if we know how to essentially ask Keeper for exactly what we need, it trims down that overwhelm to where I can focus in on just what's due today. Or I can focus in on payroll that's due this week, because everybody's payroll schedule is a little bit different. I know it's Friday. I know I need to run payroll, but who falls on this Friday? Really good view here. So one other call out on this side, the task view can pull in things from clients and firm task sections. So this can be really helpful if you are using firm task section to kind of keep some brain dump ideas or other projects that you're working on. That can also pull into this view. So that can be really helpful so it doesn't die over here in firm task land and then you miss that deadline as well.
Next up, we have our client details. It's a great open space to be able to save notes, important client information, frequently used links. It's really a sandbox where you can put just about anything that's going to be helpful to you and your team as you work through. You are able to put this on your client close page. So this could be a section right at the top if you turn it on. We'll show you how to do that in just a moment. But it gives you that open space here to be able to include quick reminders, any notes or hyperlinks to make it easy to transition between materials that you'll need to complete the work for that client. And it does not take up the entire screen. It does limit to a smaller space, and then click that to open it and it'll bring it up so you can see the full details.
And I really love this as like what I would normally keep in a Google Doc, but I don't want to have to remember where I organize that. And I want it to be in Keeper for all of my team to be able to see. So really cool here. And this is a really flexible one. So there's some people that don't use it at all. There's some people that use it for like shared folders. So if you have a Google Drive link or a Dropbox link that you're going to have to go to over and over again, you can hyperlink it in here. You can also do things like reference videos. So if you shot a Loom that's specific to this client about how to run their payroll report, because it's a little bit different, including the Loom link here can be really easy because it's up at the top of the page. This is also a really good spot to put anything about services or scope or anything like that so that everybody's on board with what's in scope for this client. But this is a really flexible one too. So you can get really creative and put anything you want under the sun. But in that more creative category, I've seen a lot of people start putting that vendor W-9 link or the receipt forwarding email that you're always going to have to go hunt for because Joe never remembers it. And I'm going to have to tell him again. Just including that there on here so that it's really easy to access, or any communication reminders. So sometimes you need to CC two people or send it to this person, but always CC their VA or something like that. You can always put little notes and reminders on this side as well so that it's up and really easily accessible.
One other thing I've seen a couple users do, which is really cool, is you can drag and drop images in here. So I've seen some people maybe take a screenshot of like schedules and whatnot and drop it in there. So that is one kind of a hot tip too, but it is drag and drop. There's not an image upload button. So just be aware. That's how you get it in there.
That's new to me. So that's awesome. I love that you popped that tip in. I know there's a lot of people that are like, I don't know where to put an image. I can't figure out how to link this. So thanks for that tip. We're learning stuff on here too. That's awesome.
Yeah. If you do want that to show up on your client page, you'll do that from your practice settings, practice and statements, and then section manager. It's right there at the top. Just toggle it on. Now, when you do this, it is going to do it across all clients. This is a firm-wide setting. There. If you don't want it to show on that page, but you still want to utilize that space, you can get to that from your client page by going to the info section and clicking on client details tab from there.
Exactly. So this is a good one just to realize that it exists regardless of whether you show or not, but showing gives you the option to have it like a sticky note up at the top before anybody gets into their tasks. But if you're not utilizing this one, then turn it off. No need to have a blank section up there on your client pages. So option's really yours.
And the last one that we're going to highlight for today is the ability to adjust the close page. This allows you to declutter and get rid of what you don't need. The great news is that it's not permanent. Anything that you take away can always be added back in later if you decide that you need it or you're ready to begin using it. So what can you remove? Any of the accounts, like in your account reconciliation section, those can be removed or added. Tasks, reports, financial statements, all of these can be removed at any point and added back in at any point. And with the new closing or non-closing task sections, you have the ability to hide those as well. And all of this is done at the client level, so you can customize for each and every client.
I think this is really helpful because Keeper out of the box may not be exactly what you need, or we may be jumping ahead on things that we want to get to. And I would love to be able to review this, but right now we are in bear it down. I just need exactly what's currently in my workflow and I can't add anything extra. So you can definitely streamline any of the things that are clutter right now without worrying that you're permanently deleting anything again. So you can adjust this for visual overwhelm, right? No need to leave extra pieces on the page if you're not using them. This can also help reduce confusion because your team is not wondering, do I actually need to be doing this one? Or is this like the other ones where I can just skip it? Should I check it off? Should I not? That sort of thing. And again, the least or the less pieces you have that you're not actually using means that you can really stream down and get efficient about the things that you are. So this can also help with overdue tasks. So if you're consistently, I would really like to get to this report, but month over month, I just never end up having time and it always ends up on my overdue list. Please streamline it down for right now. That overdue task list already is a bear for a lot of us. Let's not add any more to it. If we just make this decision for this season, I don't really need this and it's always going to overdue. Let's remove it for now and then we can add it back in when we have more capacity or more hands on deck. This is really easy and flexible, but only use what you need here.
I always reiterate that too, Erica, that we don't want to train ourselves to ignore a task. So just like she said, in addition to learning a new software, we also don't want to be adding a bunch of tasks and training ourselves to ignore those. So especially while you're getting started, or just like she said, for a season, get rid of it. You can always add it back.
And the things we're talking about here are all the ones that are default within Keeper. We're not talking about the tasks that you manually add. Those operate differently. If you delete them, they're deleted. So we're talking about the ones that are part of the built-in Keeper here with your account reconciliation and the reports that are pulling in. And what that will look like if you want to adjust those for each of these sections, when you click on that account or that task to open it up, the delete button will populate there, nice big and red. So it's easy to do that. And then if you ever need to add it back in, you can.
Yeah, just want to give you a heads up. You'll get a warning sign that says it can't be reversible. The one thing that wouldn't be reversible is if you had assigned a user, a due date, or customize a checklist within that report, but you can actually add the report back. So,
yep, and then you just
that
need
makes
to
it really
update those
easy.
things. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and if you have a template that already had those SOPs in, you have freedom to delete that now. Just add that task back in, drop the template again, and you're back at the same starting point. So really easy to adjust. And I'm glad that you called out that warning. I know a lot of us get worried when we see warnings in Keeper of like, oh my gosh. So deep breath, it can be added back. But if you're going to remove something that has a checklist on it, this would be a good double check and be like, hey, let's save some of this checklist in a template so that when I come back to it, I have that saved and I don't have to start back from scratch. So just like Jody mentioned, these are all here in the financial review. This is a common place that we see, like if you don't look at the AP aging summary or the cash flow report, remove it. If you don't look at some of the transaction or payee review tasks, because you don't really quite understand them at this point and we don't have time to dig in and figure out what that is, or it's just not quite suited for this client individually, that's also a really good metric because there's going to be some of these that are helpful for some clients and that we don't even look at for other clients. So like Jody mentioned, adjust it report by report and task by task to help you zone in on just what you need for that client. I do want to call out that on the account reconciliation task, this can be really helpful if when you connect, QBO pulls in a bunch of accounts that are listed in QBO, but you're not actively going and reconciling them, or there's no transactions that are going through them. You can remove this from your checklist if you don't actually need to reconcile them or have them on your monthly to-do list. So really good mention there just to figure out exactly what you're going to need for this season and for this client.
And we briefly mentioned that you can also hide non-closing sections. So this is, again, at the client level. You can set this individually for each client. So if you are utilizing multiple custom non-closing sections, but you only need a couple of them for each of your clients, you can hide those. So clicking on the dots here to get this drop-down menu, click Hide Section, and then you'll see them at the bottom. If you ever need to unhide them, you can always bring them back up.
Yeah, and I'm going to be honest, out of all of these, I think this may squeak it out for one of my favorite features is just to be able to have different sections for the different services that we offer. So if I don't need payroll for this client, or I only need payroll for this client, I can hide the sections I do or don't need in that non-closing area and really customize it for this client without worrying that I'm going to remove it across the board. So again, just kind of mentioning these are for non-closing sections that we can hide. Later on down the road, Keeper may enable us to hide some of the closing sections. Right now, just pointing out that these are in the non-closing for some of those odds and ends that we may have, like onboarding or payroll, or if we do any sort of taxes or anything like that, that's what we can really customize up at the top.
Oh, there we go. All right, so tell us, what is your top game changer from the 6 that we went over today? We'd love to hear from you to see what you're doing or about that, and then we'll start answering some of your questions as they roll in.
Yep, and this is probably a good chance to just take a second, let your brain digest. We did go through a good amount today, and there was little bonus tips thrown in there. So take a second to reflect on what kind of stood out to you the most. And Jody, if you'll actually go to the next slide, I do have a tip for anybody that is unsure where to start, or maybe that overwhelm bug crept in at some point during this presentation, and now you're like, oh my gosh, I have so many things written down. If you're in that boat, deep breath, just pick one that's going to support you in this current season. So we're in November, we're going into December, and we're going into January. So think about what's going to help you the most right now, or what's one thing that you didn't have a spot for it to live, or you've been using a whole nother system just for this thing. That's a really good thing to kind of pinpoint. And just remember that your systems are always going to be evolving. Like, we're in Keeper and have been and have multiple accounts. Even then, we're finding new buttons and adding in new features and figuring out there's different ways to use it. So don't feel like you have to have a perfect system or feel bad about the system you have. Think about Keeper and all of the features as a buffet. You can fill in your plate with what you want right now and what's going to be the most helpful and sound really exciting. Once you clear that, you can always come back for more. So don't stress yourself. And remember that you can always try new ideas in an unconnected test client like we talked about earlier. So any of the unconnected clients you're not paying for because you're paying for that connection. So this is a free space. You're not having to pay for it or worry about the cost there, but this can be a really low stakes way to try something new without worrying about rolling it out to all of your clients and messing up your other team members or anything like that. Good mention before we hop into Q&A. We always get questions about, you guys know a lot about Keeper. So let's fill in the gaps a little bit with any ways that we can kind of support you, because we do offer a whole big spectrum. So if you really liked these, like highlighting different features and pointing a spotlight at how you can use them, we do a monthly Q&A every single month, middle of the month. So we all got through with close, and you're not dueling time there. But if you really liked kind of diving in and learning more about Keeper or creative ways that the rest of the community uses, we do have those Q&A, and we do a deep dive at the beginning. So this last yesterday, actually, there's a recording up on our YouTube where we took an even deeper dive into unconnected clients and really dove into our demo to show what that can look like. So if you really like that, hey, I just want to be a sponge and I just want to absorb and see how other people are using it and potentially troubleshoot a question live with us, those Q&As are perfect for you. If you are using Keeper to some degree and you just need another set of eyes or want some recommendations on how to really tailor it or get it to do what you want it to do and really fit you, we do diagnostic systems review. So just like a diagnostic review with any of your bookkeeping clients, we can go in on the back end, take a peek around, look at all the settings and all the things that you have set up, and then we'll get with you and kind of have a strategy call of, hey, here's some recommendations. Just mentioning this button lives over here, that sort of thing, on a really personal level to make sure that Keeper is really working for you. And then definitely have guided support in the setup process. So anything from helping your team get a little bit of training from some cheerleaders that are really excited about Keeper, so that you don't have to train your team on a system you're still figuring out. And then we do have templates or ongoing support for accountability, and even do some custom setups if you know what you want, but don't want to be the person clicking. So really full scale to help you wherever you're at in your Keeper journey. And if you want to reach out to us, we've got our contact form over on this side. You can also put your little phone up here or when you get the slides. And then if you want to explore other Keeper resources that we have a whole page of PDFs with how to use tags and what could you do in your client portal and stuff like that, that are kind of at your own pace resources. So feel free to check out that page if you just want more of this kind of stuff.
All right. Let's jump into the Q&A.
Okay.
Can you see that question on the screen now?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Perfect. I'm going to keep popping them up here.
Okay. Sorry, it took me a minute to understand the question. Let me switch my screen here and we'll jump into the demo. And when I did that, the question disappeared.
Okay, it was, does the saved views list for the task list page show up in the list on the client page or vice versa?
So the saved views here are going to be different. So I think that's what you're asking about here. So these saved views are only for how you configure your client list. And then your task list saved views are for how you configure this task list itself. So that's very specific to the area that you're in. They're not going to follow you from page to page.
You can kind of also think of them as dashboards. So when you click on clients,
Yep.
those are like saved views are dashboards of your clients, meaning like a high level overview of all of your clients and then whatever you choose to have be included in that view. Whereas the task list is like custom dashboards of tasks. So they are going to be two different tabs, essentially.
What's next?
Looks like the next question is, I can tell you that that's not currently an option, so we can't do that as is, but yes, Canny would be the best place to put that vote and upvote it. And
just for the people listening to the recording, the question was, would love to have the gray white line rotation to break up the white screen. I'll check for a Canny. All right, if you haven't used Keeper as you should and have had months of notifications come through, here are your tasks that are due. How can these get cleared out?
So the fastest way that I would approach kind of cleaning up what would be considered overdue or outstanding tasks would be to come to this task list and then filter by those old due dates. So if you know for sure, hey, I'm completely done with 2023. I don't want any tasks showing up for that period. Select all of those to filter, and then you can bulk select those tasks and either mark them as complete, or maybe you mark them as canceled, or you can have a different type of one that you want skipped, anything you wanted to do to clear those out. But that way you can mark that, well, done or canceled is what's really going to get them off of your list there. So that would be a really fast and easy way to do that. That would be my best recommendation.
There's also the due date drop down at the top. You could start there with overdue, and then, up above that, Jody, where it says due date.
Yeah.
And then do overdue, start from there. Yeah.
All right. Next up, when you add a new bank or credit card account to QBO, is Keeper automatically picking those up yet, or do we still have to manually add it into the close?
As far as I know, we still have to manually add those in.
Correct. That is correct. Good news is you only have to do it one time. Just make sure you're in the most recent close period. So make sure, for instance, if you're working on, let's say, both September and October's close pages, make sure you're adding the account, and they've both been created. Make sure you're adding the account to the latest close page. If you add it to that September one, when you go to create your November, it's not going to reflect because it wasn't in that October close page, if that makes sense. So just make sure you're adding the account to the most recent close page, and then it should carry forward.
And something that goes right along with this is if you change the name of the account in QBO or Xero, it's not going to automatically update in Keeper. So if you want that to reflect, what you would then do is click to remove this one, and then remove the one that has the old name to it, and then add the new one in that has the correct updated name to it.
Awesome. Next question. You mentioned that email signatures can be customized by user. How is this different than the practice email signature, and where would you do it?
So when we mentioned this, we were mentioning that you can create a custom email for each one of your team users. So if you have, your practice email is going to be at the bottom, but you could take an email here in your templates and create that user's or that team member's signature within here. So that would be on the template instead of using the practice email signature.
All right. There is another question that wasn't in the questions tab, but I saved it. Someone asked, I'm still a little confused about non-closing tasks. Can you please elaborate on what this means? Is it as obvious as it sounds? So what would I use the general section for versus the pre-close or additional items section?
Yep. So we have multiple sections here within your close page, or areas. Let me say that. We have areas. So at the top, this is the client details area that we had mentioned previously that you can turn on or turn off. So that's an optional one. Then you've got your non-closing task area. Then you have your close area. So everything that's below, down here in the bottom, your close area, it's going to have date specific. So this is directly connected to the close period that you are in. And all of those tasks are specific to that close period. Above in this non-closing task area, it stands alone. So no matter what time period you're in or what close page you're on, all of these are going to be static. They'll always be up here. And you have a lot more flexibility on your reoccurring dates. So if you want those to recur daily or annually or any combination of those, you have more flexibility up here in this section. And we mentioned you could have multiple custom sections here as well. You can hide them. So that's also what makes this area unique. Down below, the tasks that are in these sections will always repeat. With or without a due date, they will be here. So whatever is on that close page, the next time you open the close, or the next close you create is going to have the same list. So those are some of the big differences between those areas.
The way I encourage users to think about it is non-closing tasks you can also kind of think of as like custom tasks, and they are specific to the client, not the close.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Next question. If I accidentally marked a task for the future as done in the bulk edit, how can I bring it back?
Yep. So if you are in the task page, Let me show you here first since I'm already on this page. If it's a non-closing task, it's going to be here on your completed tab. So you can always go to your completed tab and then uncheck it. That will bring it back to your due soon tab. So if you're on the client page and you accidentally mark something as complete, but you weren't ready for it to be, you can go find it there. On your closing section, they'll still be here. They'll just be marked complete. You can uncheck that as well to show that they're not started. Now, if you're working in the tasks page and doing things in bulk, the default is to show you things that have not been completed. But if you've marked it complete and you want to go find it, come here to your status column, and then you can filter by done or canceled and be able to find those. And then same thing, just uncheck it to be able to bring it back as not started.
Awesome. I think that was all of the questions in the questions tab. I've tried to catch the ones that have come through the chat, but I think that that's all of them. If you have any more questions in the attendee list, feel free to put them all in. We have about 10 minutes left, and we'd love to answer any questions as they pertain to the 6 features that they went over today or just in general. So give you a few more minutes to get your questions in.
And Maddie, I had a little bit of internet issues. Were you able to cover the question about the difference in how we would use details versus notes?
No.
Okay, Jody, if you'll go into a client, this is actually one of my favorites, so I'm happy to give kind of a cursory look at this. So the details is kind of an overview, and everybody uses this differently. So there's not necessarily a right or a wrong, but the details gives a good overview and kind of a landing page for any common like links that you may use or anything you want to be top of mind. I really like using the notes area as kind of call notes, or if I have to leave kind of notes for myself month over month about a certain account or something like that, this can be a really great place to leave month-end notes or call notes or anything like that. So a little bit easier to kind of go in and have a single topic like you would use a Google Doc, where the client details is going to be static and you can kind of have that be your overview. So Lauren, do you see that used in any other way?
No, that's exactly how I describe it, is virtual notes. Like think of it as like sticky notes or even kind of like equivalent to a Google Word doc kind of, that you would just have a permanent place to keep those notes. And yeah, just reiterating that they're not seen by clients. So that's like internal for the team.
Yeah, great mention, because I know that's one of the concerns for a lot of us is like, I don't want these to be client facing. It's okay. These are safe for you. The details, I will say, sometimes if you're using it as your drop space for month over month notes, that can get to be a pretty long one. So it won't take up more real estate on the page. You're not worried about that. But sometimes this section, when you hop in, can get that visual overwhelm picture if it's just really lengthy. So sometimes if it's getting to be bigger or something I need to go back and add notes to or something like that, breaking it out instead of details into singular notes with a topic or a call note or something like that can be a little bit easier for brain space and easier scanning. So just one thing to think about. You can use either space or both. Each have a really unique way, and a lot of us use it in a blend.
Awesome. Katie asks, I would love to learn more about using metrics and how others are using this really cool feature of Keeper. Are there resources already out there with some specific metric builds, etc.?
So one place I would recommend checking out is our webinar. It was about a year ago at this point, when we updated metrics. Tyler Otto, one of our other users, did a pretty robust presentation on walking through metrics. And I can pull that up and drop it in the chat in a moment, and I can tell you which minute to queue it up to. But that, I would say, at this time is the most in-depth video we have. But feel free to
Yeah,
try.
we've done a previous Q&A topic as well. So if you want to go to our YouTube channel and you just want an intro into getting your bearings. So Tyler Otto does an amazing in-depth, here's how to set up all the KPIs. We had a lot of people being like, whoa, stop the bus. Can you just give me step 1, 2, and 3 to even get to Tyler Otto's video. So feel free to check out that Q&A if you need to slow down or kind of get your bearings a little bit before you can hop into Tyler Otto's, because it's really in-depth and really awesome, but depending on where you're at with Keeper and just Excel spreadsheets and KPIs, you may need a little bit of an intro.
Okay, next question. How would you recommend we track annual clients? We have some clients that we only work on at the end of the year. So currently we set them up as quarterly clients, but then we have to manually delete the tasks.
If you're only working on them annually, setting them up quarterly is a great idea, because then you're only going to have 4 closes for the whole year. Instead of having to delete old things, if you're only going to work on them in that Q4 close, or if you just want a December close, you can just get rid of the entire close that you don't need by coming to your client list here, clicking the drop down, and then you can just remove. So if you're only doing Q4, you could remove Q1, Q2, Q3 here, so you don't even have those closes or those tasks building up. That would be one way that you could do it. If you only do them annually, so if you're setting them up right now for Q4, you could opt to ignore the prompts to start Q1 or start Q3 and just wait until Q4 of the next year comes around and then start that next close that you need to. That'd be my probably biggest tip for that.
Awesome. So that was the last question that I saw. I'll give you guys a couple more minutes in case you have any other questions. I'm going to send all of Erica and Jody's links again in the chat for you guys to access their old Q&As, or if you want to book the diagnostic session. So those will be right here. Perfect. Awesome. I'm not seeing any more questions. Do you guys have anything you want to close with?
I think just a big thank you.
Yes.
We love doing these Q&As because we can kind of spotlight a specific feature and kind of talk about it. But this was something that has been over a year in the making between all of the ones that we were like, we need to tell people about this. And every time we mention this, people's eyes light up. So thank you, Keeper, for just hosting this at a base. But
Yes.
thank you all for joining, and make sure you're being really careful about what you take on right now. Again, it's a buffet. Don't get yourself in overwhelm land. But thank you all for joining and just being willing to explore a really cool system to find other little bits and pieces that can make it work even better for you.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, everyone. We really appreciate you taking the time to join today.
Hope everyone has a great week. And this will also be posted on our YouTube channel if you want to go back and reference. So we'll see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.